And when he says this, there's a gentleman in the US government named Stuart Levy, who's the top sanctions official at the Treasury Department, who hears Bush say this, and he kind of takes it as a personal challenge. And he says to himself, this is my job. I need to think of something. And there's one day, he's actually having breakfast in Bahrain at a hotel when he's flipping through the Financial Times, and he reads an article about a Swiss bank that has cut ties with Iran of its own volition. And a light bulb sort of goes off in his head where he says, hold on a second, maybe it's okay if we can't get the Chinese government or the British government or the Indian government to support sanctions against Iran. Maybe I can just go to banks and companies in these countries, in places like Delhi or Frankfurt or Dubai or Singapore or Beijing, and persuade them one by one to cut ties with Iran. And for those basically who are not persuaded just by the potential reputational hazard of doing business with Iran, I could threaten to cut them off from the US financial system. I could tell a bank in Singapore that they have a choice. They could either do business with Iran or they could have access to the dollar, but they can't do both. And because of the importance of the dollar in the global financial system, almost everyone is going to choose the US. And Levy winds up being proven correct. And really within just a few years, he isolates Iran almost entirely from the global financial system, using not sort of the traditional government-to-government diplomacy, but this sort of novel government-to-business, G2B, if you will, outreach, where he's really getting businesses to do the bidding of the U.S. government, even if they're not based in the United States.
Yeah, and it's even if the governments don't agree or wouldn't agree to America telling them to bend to their wishes because why is it America's business to poke their noses in our countries is what they might retort. But the whole idea that I think you also write that if a bank lends money to Iran and if by some reason America finds out that that money was used in enrichment of uranium, then they would come down hard on that bank. And bank said that, hey, it's not worth the risk. We aren't making enough money with Iran, so may as well stay away from them. So that is how Levy cooked the whole scheme up. But what I found interesting was, again, there was a lot of work. He had to fly to these countries and sit down and explain the whole thing. So it's like before it came to a boil, there was a lot of work, slowly simmering. And then I'm sure the word of mouth would have passed that a Frankfurt guy would have called somebody else saying that, hey, you know what, we are competitors, but we may as well stop doing this. I'm assuming that these things would have happened behind the scenes, which we don't know, except that we read the headline that whatever, Iran is now cut off from the world. But there is such a lot of work that goes behind the scenes.
That's exactly right.